2017 Honda NBox 2nd Gen.
This is what you're gonna be jelking yourself to in 2042.
That's when this glorious Honda NBox will be legal to import into these states united. The NBox is the Super Saiyan 3 of K cars, as fabulous and as extravagant as a car can take the form. Still 660 cc's,
but maximum everything. It's as narrow as a Daihatsu Hi-Jet, but as tall as a Honda Element.
In fact, this feels like what results when a Honda Element, Honda Fit or Jazz, and Kia Soul
airtights an Activan.
The NBox has the affordability of the Soul, the wheelbase of the Acti, the flipping and folding rear seats of the Honda Fit or Jazz, and the buddy nose and dump truck butt of the Element. But when your powers combine, I am a safe-for-work furry Twitch streamer with a
horny Patreon. Watch me grow and use this Melbourne trolley as a Hitachi wand.
Okay. So Americans won't really have to wait until 2042 for an NBox. The 1st gen came out in 2011, which means they'll be legal to import in 2036. But if you want a 2nd gen like this one, then you'll have to wait because 2017 was the first year for the 2nd gen NBox. The one bad thing is this has 7 fake gears. No manual available. See? It's not just Ford and GM that fake shift their CVTs, Japan does it too in their home market, which means customers are dumb the world over. Anyway, the fake first gear of the NBox is crawler low and jerks this love box forward. It gives you the impression that the turbo 3-cylinder engine has more to give, but once you hit 80 Ks, the S07A engine fills with lactic acid, gets a side stitch, and says, just jog for a bit can we just jog for a bit if you don't mind? The suspension feels like it has different dampening front and rear. The front springs are firm, but the rear springs are soft. You hit a speed bump, the front goes wham, and the rear goes boingy, 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 which would make sense if the rear had extra suspension travel when unladen, sat up on a raked angle, but it doesn't. Load the NBox up, and it sags. We put 5 people in it, and the rear wheels were riding on the bump stops.
Oh, the NBox is so useful. It's so big inside. And when you flip the rear seats up,
you can walk right through this car. Imagine loading a big TV or chair or desk or some IKEA project into one side and not having to duck or bend over weird. The person helping you just walks backward, carries their end in, and they're just stepping across. It's like they're stepping across a big flat hand truck. It's easy. It's so easy. I love this thing. However, I also recognize that the NBox is to me what the Corvette was to Jeremy Clarkson. A holiday romance. If I brought this big butt femboy into the land of commons, its charming flaws will turn into the broken promises that they are. No hill pulling power, the space for cargo, but no torque to move it up a hill. A parts network that doesn't exist, and like a boy toy who will only eat at Seasons 52 in the KOP Mall, this relationship will become very expensive very quickly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I should have saw that.
Japanese suspension, Aussie roads.
There it is. There it is. Okay. Speaking of Aussie roads. Get ourselves up. There it is. I love that turning radius. Right, no one coming that way. Got Subaru going that way.
Passenger to curb. And yeah, if you really want to rev through it, because it'll stay with flappy paddles while you're in sport, you got a manual.
Okay, it kind of makes the sound like a little kid does. There's a pothole, don't hit it, Ryan.
So say you do get this in the United States and you're watching this video in 2036, God willing YouTube is still around and I still have a job. So if it's 2036 right now and NBoxes are becoming legal, okay, you're now importing one into the United States. Expect something minimalist but cozy. This is a learner's permit car because you're not going to go that fast since the top speed is supposedly around, actually it's not that bad, 144 kilometers an hour. I mean, this thing will tack out at 89 miles an hour, but you have to take the speed governor off to do it. You will get good mileage because fuelson.com has this getting around, and we had to do the calculations from, liters per kilometer to miles per gallon. So this thing in US terms gets 55 miles per gallon city, 78 miles per gallon highway. Now, is that going 62 miles an hour on the highway? Or is that asking this engine to pull 70 miles an hour up the Northeast extension? Are you really going to get that? And there's nothing about this car that suggests danger other than the implication that it's not surviving an impact with a road median, much less another car. In a lot of ways, the Honda NBox proves the argument that not all cars are meant to be imported. But you're watching this in 2036, so you just imported one. Yes, there's a case to be made for a united world where cars aren't subject to import laws, where you can get anything you want whenever you want it, as long as you have the money and the willingness to bring it up to compliance with your country's respective laws and requirements. But the reality is that this is a pipe dream. Some cars should never be imported anywhere outside of their home market. But you're watching this in 2036, and you already imported one. And I can see your argument for wanting one of these cars. And I know, but look at the fuel economy. I'd only have to fill it up 1.5 times a month, if that. And look how cute the car is. Yeah, we have boxy looking cars like this, but none with the same amount of stub nose charm. And that's all true. The NBox is a very charming car, but it barely makes sense here in Australia and would make even less sense in North America. Yes, it can fit about 5 people in here, but not everything a car can do is something a car should do. This is going to sag like octogenarian titties and scrape the road like cold butter on untoasted bread. Would this make the hill climb we use for the on-the-road shots back home? Maybe. Would we need to wait until there was literally no other traffic coming to get these side-by-side shots? Probably. An NBox climbing a hill is like trying to run up a hill in a pair of Nickelodeon moon shoes. It would take an extraordinary amount of effort, and you would appear comical to anybody passing by. And that's the shortcoming of a car that's this good in every other respect. It handles nicely. Acceleration is barely there, but it's a shoebox with a motor, so I don't know what you should have been expecting this to do. The 660cc turbocharged 3-cylinder, small block makes a factory 64 horsepower and 76 pound-feet of torque, matched to a CVT with Liar's gearing. It still overcomes these flaws to become perfectly acceptable in a vacation setting. But I would imagine driving this every day would be like trying to build a marriage out of a one-night stand. What do we really have in common beyond the willingness to bust in one another? The NBox is part of a renewed line of K-Class city vehicles, and it spent at least 28 consecutive months as Japan's best-selling car. This did, boasting 1.7 million units in sales. This thing sold 170 million cars. And in the United States, people like me, we're just learning about it now. And its popularity makes sense in Japan, particularly urban Japan, where the roads aren't as wide, parking spots are smaller, energy costs are generally higher. But put plainly, people simply have different priorities and tastes. There aren't the same Western ideas of size being a requirement for satisfactory ownership. The opposite, in fact, as K cars have lower insurance and tax burdens in Japan. You're incentivized to drive something like this in Japan. But here in Australia, what's the point in trying? As an American, I recognize that it's very odd that Australia, being the same size as the lower 48 states and having a culture that loves big shouty, gigantic cars as much as we do, still has European-sized roads. I don't get it. I mean, yes, Melbourne has a very good public transportation system and has trolleys that are better than better than SEPTA's. I was about to compare this to media. Brian, stop making Pennsylvania references. Get back to the review. Now, we looked up a bit about Australia's 25-year rule for imports to compare against the notes we got from the volunteers over the course of the trip. As it was explained to us, there really isn't a 25-year rule for Australians as Americans think of it, since you can still import a car if it's on the Specialist and Enthusiast Vehicles Register. Obviously, the car has to pass inspection to qualify for import, yet there's an asterisk next to that, because even if it does pass, you might not be able to import it if there's already a domestic equivalent. Researching this, it also appears that there's another loophole that says if you've owned a car for more than 12 months while living overseas, you can bring it back to Australia. Isaac purchased this off of Cars from Japan. That's the name of the website. That's a business tip. Name your business what it is. Love it. It's the time cop approach. Call it what it is. Cars from Japan. Anyway, they got it from an auction. The Australian rules, we could be getting it wrong, and I invite all Aussies to correct us in the comment because there was a lot of conflicting information when it came, when we tried to research what you can and can't import into Australia. But this is still a topic we wanted to at least address. It might not seem like the most sensible car to import, but Isaac drove this from Sydney to Melbourne. 1,000 Ks. And he said it was perfectly fine. And yes, 2 people in this car, it's great. It is huge. It is Western sized in here. You're a little close together, but headroom for days. Yes, I spent the last few minutes talking about how this isn't the most sensible car to import, but if you're looking for something with decent space and great fuel economy and a ton of character, it's a perfectly cromulent car. You just have to expect that there will be limitations to what it can do in the acceleration department, even with a turbocharger. Now, Isaac stated that the 0 to 100 Ks, that's 0 to 62 miles an hour, is supposed to be about 20 seconds. But it at least makes it feel like it's faster than that. But even at a normally faster pace, this isn't going to do numbers on the Bathurst circuit.
We're going to see if my computer works with the front of your car. Yep. The one that won't let me drive into things.
All right.
Don't drive too fast though, because I've only seen it kick on when it's like you're lifting off.
Okay.
Yeah. So come up to it like it's at a stoplight.
Okay, coming up like we're at a stoplight. Okay. Right like that.
Yep. And then try and drive forward.
Okay, I'm lifting off.
Will it do it? No, it's not going to do it. Damn it.
It's not doing it?
No.
Okay.
Like my partner's only ever seen it once. It's like, I see this far too often. It makes me feel like a hoon.
All right, so, I get a... And that's aftermarket, is that correct?
That's aftermarket because it was all Japanese.
Okay.
As much as I'd love to learn.
So I just should really just look at the mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm small enough, I'm in.
That also has, when you are reversing.
What? Oh, yeah.
When you are reversing, it does have the wheels up here to tell you where your wheels are pointed. Yeah. I'm kind of annoyed it did not want to work.